Right, there we are. We're back on air. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Happy
Good.
Thursday.
Happy
Alex, how are
Thursday.
you doing?
Good, good. It's raining and nasty here, but I hear Matty has snow, so I can't really complain.
Well, yeah, we have sun today. Over the weekend, we had a really bad snowstorm here in Denver, but
Oh
it's
wow.
starting to warm up again. So looking forward to that.
It's
Snow,
crazy.
oh my god. We always talk about weather, I feel like at the start, but it was like pouring the other day. And then I was like on a call to someone else in our team and it was thunderstorming. And then another call, it was glorious sunshine. So I still don't understand what spring is in any of our countries. But yeah, all
It's
fun.
okay. We don't either. It's like not consistent anymore.
No, I don't leave the house anyway. No. I need to go to the gym and that's fine. So I could just work from in here. The curtains are closed. We can just pretend it's sunny outside. We don't need to look. Okay, right. Let's get on to it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and I am a commercial architect at AWS.
You want to go, Alex?
Oh,
I'll go.
Alex.
My name is Alex Head, and I run the optics team. So work with Steph and Matty every day. They're stuck with me for all of our strategic industries.
All right, great. And hi, everybody. My name is Matty Serapio. I am a commercial architect, and I specialize working with our global financial service customers.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on financial services, or we call it GFS. So we'll kind of shorten it down to that. And we've got Matty here to come and tell us some stories all about GFS. As always, any questions, comments you have, pop them in the chat. We always want to hear from you. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then feel free to like and subscribe. And any comments or questions you have on there, just drop them below. And any links that we share today, we'll also have those in the show notes of this video.
I did want to jump in one thing before we jump into the world of global financial services is the Kudos dashboard, which you've had a lot of people on this show who have helped build it, a lot of people who have helped push it to different customers and utilize it as customers. And the FinOps Foundation recently, since the last time I was on, listed it in their top 5 run cost visibility tools. And so wanted to say congratulations to how you both have impacted it, but and for everyone on the show who helped kind of spread the word and keep it going.
Yeah, it's a great shout out. It's such a useful tool. The links there. There are so many new dashboards. There's new ones coming out. We've just released the Compute Optimizer one. There's the new Tower one. There's the KPI, Kudos, Cost Intelligence, and I'm working on a couple coming out in the future too. So yeah, check out. As always, we are well-architected fans in this house. So, looking forward to it. Fab. Okay, then. Alex, do you want to jump in first?
Yeah. So I know you gave a little bit of your origin story, Matty, and what your role is here at AWS. But Matty has now brought 2 more people to the team that are all stars just like him. And so something that I got asked yesterday that I think is a cool question to ask someone like you, Matty, is how did your role in the past develop into this FinOps world that you are now supporting? Like, what did you use to learn and figure it out and get the lingo, all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. So good question. So in the past, I worked in the data space, and in addition to the data space, I was also working with an application support. So have a soft spot for cost visibility, data wrangling, data cleansing, all things data. So eventually that led me into a role where they got asked, hey, we're taking a look at some of our performance data within the cloud. Can you help us out? And can you help us visualize it? So that was a place that I found super passionate about. And then eventually when I started, taking a look at the different terminology, learning what are some of the things that might be useful to show in those visibility dashboards, I found that working within the FinOps space was really, really interesting. And that's because we were also putting on metrics surrounding like cost, performance, and those sorts of things, and really fell in love with it since.
Got it. Awesome. It's always interesting to see how people kind of fell into this world. There's no FinOps degree yet, but although maybe leave it to someone like Steph, she will she will get that in.
I was going to say, I already consulted on a degree level course like a couple of years ago. I can't remember. It was a UK one where they like wanted to know about cloud. And I was like, put in cloud financial management. That's important. Like, call me if you need help. Cool. All right. So yeah, jumping in, let's start off with getting into some GFS. So Matty, what kind of trends have you seen in GFS? Let's kind of dive into that.
Yeah, sure. So, you in the audience today, you as well on the channel today, there's probably a lot of similarities and trends that you see within other verticals and industries, but there are definitely things that are specific to global financial services as well. So global financial services definitely have their own security, data privacy, as well as their resiliency obligations. So you heard me talk a little bit about my role. My role is to help make sure that they meet these obligations all the while still having a optimized environment. So it's very complex to navigate sometimes, but we try to simplify it and help our customers out with it.
Nice. Really like how you phrase that. It's my goal to keep these requirements and meet the obligations around them for getting an optimized environment. I think that's a unique way to describe each way we work in different industries.
I should keep that for a promo video. Advertising optics. This is great. So can you talk about a few kind of let's go into some customer use cases maybe about things that you've seen are quite consistent with GFS that you see a lot happening and customers need to optimize in.
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely happy to touch on that. So you heard me talk about, making sure that we meet these different obligations, making sure that we're also optimized. So one example that I can give is a grid workload. So for those of you not familiar with grid workloads, you can run different simulations from a risk simulation to a what if scenario, making sure that you do this with a cluster of compute resources. And it's experience that I also had. You heard my origin story of I was also application support working within a company. And this is one example that I help customers with, but I also have my own experience as well. So with this grid resources, we actually had a scenario where we actually ran out of resources on our on-premise data center when we had an influx of requests come in. So we actually turned to AWS. Being able to launch those resources with a few UI clicks, API calls was really, really cool, especially for those of you that are familiar with how we get resources in the on-premise data center. It can take a long time, right? So where I'm going with this is we launched those resources within AWS. And when we launched those resources, we were able to meet our different simulation needs. However, we were running these resources on demand. So we were trying to figure out a way that we can actually optimize this. So where I'm relating this back to what we've seen with global financial service customers is we do see customers launch their resources, their grid workloads with on-demand resources. And that is an opportunity to optimize. So taking a step back, not just pertaining to grid workloads, but whenever you take a look at any of your workloads, one question to ask yourself is there a specific purchase model that I can actually utilize to make sure that I'm optimized? So narrowing back into grid workloads, one candidate is that spot compute. And for those of you not familiar, spot compute, it's AWS's spare EC2 capacity, same exact compute resources, but at a fraction of the cost there. So, me as a customer, as well as helping my customers, seeing where they can actually swap out those on-demand resources to leverage Spot was an actual way that we could optimize. And again, wrapping up here, taking a look at meeting those obligations that they have. They might have SLAs. They might have resiliency requirements there. For those requirements, one way that you can make sure that you're resilient is having a mixture of things such as instance types and families. And that's because Spot resources, since it is AWS's spare capacity, we can reclaim it whenever we need it. So the way that you prevent this is having the variety of those instance types, families, as well as availability zones to have a resilient workload there. So that's one example there.
So basically, you could set up your Spot configuration. I mean, when you set up for Spot anyways, you have a list, right, of different different size machines that you would use, and it'll pick that for you. So not only does Spot give that on-demand piece, but it also gives them a bit of the resiliency piece too, because it's changing up what you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever, Spot is something that I am learning more about every day that our customers need it. And we've had a couple of episodes previously that if you go on our YouTube channel, you can see about Spot if you want to learn a little bit more. But yeah, I never really think about it. It's a great point about choosing different setups so that you have a real mixed bag, so that when they want it back, it's not like, oh, we're taking back all your M5s or something like that. No, that's cool.
Yeah, using it for that resiliency. Do you ever see, I have found, at least when I was working with kind of older companies that had been around a long time, that had made that on-prem switch or maybe was slowly making it, that I got more pushback when it came to Spot because it was like kind of a scary thing. And I know that a lot of our large GFS customers are bigger customers that have been around for a bit and have moved from on-prem. And do you see that a lot, or is that kind of fading?
I have seen it, and part of it stems from folks using Spot in the past where it was a bid ask model. Okay. So that is no longer the way that Spot is. The pricing is very consistent.
We
So
make
that's,
shirts.
yeah.
We need shirts that say you don't bid on Spot anymore. The amount that I feel like we're asked
constantly.
So that is the pushback that I get. And then it's, we can demystify it, right? We can show them the pricing, it's consistent. There's even a dashboard that shows you like interruptions, right? So a lot of the instances will be interrupted less than 5% of the time. So depending on what type of instance family you are, you can build something that is, again, resilient, make sure that you can get over those hurdles that folks might have.
Nice. So any other kind of trends that you've seen? I know we spoke a little bit about kind of application times. I think that was one we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So within global financial services, you might have certain workloads that are tied to specific working hours or certain hours. So obviously you might have applications that need to be on 24/7 or they follow the Sun model, what have you. But you have applications maybe that are only tied to market hours. So how do you actually optimize for that? Especially knowing that we have different purchase models to meet this. So again, taking a step back, what is the workload that I want to, or what is the purchase commitment that I want to do or purchase model that I want to do to meet my needs here? Right. In this case, working with one of the customers, we took a look at one of their applications. Despite it being tied to certain hours, they had some baseline of usage that needed to be online 24/7. So we committed towards that. So determining what that level was. For everything else, it was more elastic. So taking advantage of the cloud, being able to launch resources only for when you need them is really cool. So how we did that was through tagging. I'm sure we have a great tagging episode as that. And then leveraging things such as the instance scheduler. So that you can actually launch resources when you need them and launch them down when you no longer need them. And then to wrap up, we have this really cool visual that we always show. And it's any healthy environment is going to have a mix of these things, right? You have your steady state usage, maybe for the things that are 24/7, but then you have your elastic usage. So again, ways that we work with customers to actually implement this elasticity, as it is a change from maybe working from like the on-prem environment.
Steph, coming from you work with our telco customers and their schedule isn't as obvious, right, as like banking and things that are attached to the market. Do you see telco customers use a lot of scheduling, or do they have a struggle with that?
I think it depends. I think what I see more is the environment dependency. So when it's happening more and more now, so a lot of the customers that I've worked with are relatively new to the cloud. There are some that are way more advanced, but a lot of the ones that I speak to are quite new. And so they're focused more on let's just get into the cloud. Let's just put everything. It's a lot of lift and shift. Everything's too big. Everything's on all the time. And so they're kind of learning the ways in which they do that. But one of the easiest ones is just use it on the development accounts. And so one of my customers recently has literally just set it up and they're loving it. And you can see that knock off in price. We have some internal reports that we run. These guys know what I'm talking about. And it will drop down. And you can say the same thing on Cost Intelligence Dashboard, where you can see suddenly that there is just like such a drop in pay every day. And it's really satisfying to see those numbers. But yeah, they focused on deploying it just into their kind of development accounts and their production. They're kind of leaving. They don't need to worry about it. It's on all the time. And then, like Matty said, when they're purchasing savings plans, they can focus on those, including those accounts in their calculations and kind of ignoring the on-demand. So there might be some additional coverage, but most of it's going on to those 24/7 workloads, which is great. Nice.
Well,
okay.
Matty, on that, sorry, just adding one more question. I've been taking notes because I want to make sure. So for those who are watching that I don't know, GFS and energy are our newest verticals that have come into the optics team. They've, of course, always been there. And so try to learn as much as I can when I get these opportunities on some of the nuances and understanding. So one more question I have just around that and kind of the flow that you see. Do you see financial customers go more towards reserved instances because they understand that it's like a single thing that you're reserving and you get this price? Or have they started adopting savings plans more?
Yeah, they started to adopt savings plans more. So what I've seen is global financial service customers that are starting on their net new commits, meaning that they've never had it before, are comfortable going into that savings plan and diving in because they love the flexibility of it, right? For customers that have historically used reserved instances, they might have processes and reports that are built around those reserved instances. So it's not so much of like a hurdle in that they don't understand savings plans. It's more of we need to make sure that our processes are set in place so that we can have the reporting, the visibility in place for those savings plans. So we do see that trend slowly moving. One of my customers finally just retired their last reserved instance this last month. Super excited, and they're fully migrated onto savings plans.
That's great. Exciting times for that customer. And just to add on to that, I think that's a common, like in all the industries, people with legacy bought RIs are probably just someone's purchasing them all the time and like, we'll just get the same. I know when I was customer, sometimes we're like, just buy the same as you did last year, which is obviously not the best way of doing it. You should always be reviewing and checking and staircasing your purchases. And to mention the cost intelligence dashboard that and the KPI dashboard that Alex worked on, which is in the Kudos set of dashboards as well. In there, it shows you your commitments and when they're running out and things like that. And that data is so useful so you can understand kind of, okay, how many RDSs are on a certain size you purchased. I know it's a amount of savings plans. I'll move to EC2. So how many EC2s have you got covered by your RIs? When can you start to move off and move on to savings plans, and then maybe take advantage of things like Graviton or even Spot? So just kind of track your purchases.
Yeah,
it's always a good advice. So to throw it into, just so in case anybody's joined and wanted to know what we're talking about today, we're talking about global financial services, or GFS, and we've got Matty from our GFS team in optics, and we've actually just got some questions coming in, so let's jump on some of those. So we've got one saying, how often should customers review if they need to purchase additional savings plans to cover on-demand usage? Matty, do you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, sure. So I've definitely seen different cadences go through with our different customers, right? So for some of our customers that have a more dedicated FinOps team, they're more able to do, say, a monthly purchase and doing those reviews, as you mentioned, those staircases of, hey, we need to increase our commitment. Maybe we have net new workloads. Maybe we've migrated new things that we need to cover. Okay. For folks that maybe don't have as much of a dedicated FinOps team to do that, we've also seen them do it at a quarterly cadence or biannually. And that's way they can just group their purchases together, make sure that they're still receiving that commitment, all the while not having it be a burden on their schedule, right, of having to renew that when it comes up for renewal.
Nice. Alex, you want to add anything or move on?
Oof, I mean, it just changes. I think that's a great question, and that we could do a whole episode on that, honestly. Is, what does that review process look like? Do you need a review process? Do you just sign up for the same thing over and over again? What do you need to be putting into consideration? I think Matty listed out some really great things. Honestly, I think add that to the schedule next time. I think that could really, I know we've done some kind of what are SPs, what are RIs, but really, like, how do you build a strategy around that works for you is hard. And the things that you want to think about are, number one, like, where is that budget coming from? How does that look in your organization? How is that displayed, right? Does it matter what's being allocated where? And then what are your plans, right? So you want to look at what further optimizations do you want to do before you jump into that, or maybe you lower your commit because you know that you're going to migrate A, B, and C later.
Mm-hmm. I think, definitely get Matty back on for a part 2 on all about savings plan planning. Love it. Just also, you mentioned kind of for next season, I'm just going to mention this now. It didn't start. If you want to sign up so that you get a calendar invite to remind you that this awesome show is happening every week, then drop onto this very long link. I need to create a shorter version of it, I think. And you can book in to get a calendar reminder. So we just had another question as well. Let me grab that one. So, very specific to financial services. So in financial services, do you typically see customers build their own tooling or use third-party tooling to help manage their costs?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question. And something that's near and dear to my heart. You heard me talk about my background, worked on business intelligence dashboards in the past. So I do see a variety, right? So some folks, again, have been legacy using those third-party tools and they work out great for them and they want to continue using them. We have other folks that leverage the Kudos dashboard and the offering there. So we have those cost intelligence dashboards, the KPI dashboards. And then we have the third set where there's folks even that have the third-party tooling, and then they also like to leverage those Kudos offering. So we do see a mix of that. Where I usually see maybe the dividing line there is folks that have experience in building those dashboards. So setting up the Kudos offering, very, very easy to do, right? You can follow the lab and you can have it up and running in a few minutes. But having a dedicated person maybe to support that, manage those visualizations is one area where I see folks maybe go towards building their own tooling.
Interesting. And like you said, this kind of leads on to something that you're really passionate about. I think we talked about before, you had some fun favorite customer stories that related to this kind of area of cost visualization. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So, with business intelligence dashboards, one of the cool things is being able to, and custom ones, that is building your own visualizations. So a few customers have asked me to build out some custom queries from coverage to savings. But the one that I thought was really cool was building an efficiency unit metric. Now, for those of you that don't know, unit metric is just the rate at which you change a demand driver. A demand driver actually changes an entity. And we have a great actual session on that in the past where we actually had Mike on to talk about some of those unit costs. And I always point my customers towards that one. So my customers really wanted to take a look at this unit metric so that they could figure out the efficiency at which they're using those purchase models. Again, savings plans, reserved instances, and spot. And the reason that they used this is that they wanted to know what was the impact of their FinOps team to actually get the efficiencies of these savings plans. And you can actually see the inflection point of where the FinOps team actually got launched and then their unit costs actually dropping.
Oh, wow.
And another reason they wanted to do this is, again, it might not be obvious when you're taking a look at an aggregate dashboard. Your costs might be going up, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. You might, again, be launching net new workloads. You might be doing things such as migrating new things in there, right? So again, you need to know the efficiencies that you're having in that account.
Mm-hmm. I think we were talking about why, I mean, you kind of covered it there to kind of show the efficiency of a team, but why people find efficiency so important. I mean, Alex, you've done a lot of work on unit cost. What do you see the biggest driver of customers needing to have this kind of metric to track their usage?
Yeah, I was actually on site with a customer last week where we talked about this. And the key isn't necessarily this application has $2 per hour of compute where this application has $1, right? It's more of how do they improve it. And so when you're tracking that, you want to watch the percent changes because every application is going to be different. Maybe some have very heavy instances where some have some of the smallest instances we have, right? Which can kind of mess with that number. And so you want to say, okay, this month you improved or you unimproved.
Got
regressed.
Yeah, that's the word.
And that is how you want to compare and set goals. And so when I go talk to someone and say I'm going to talk to someone in GFS, I want to tell them, over the past 6 months, customers similar to yourself have been able to improve their storage unit cost by this amount. I don't want to say, hey, their storage unit cost is this and yours is that. It's how do we improve and what's the trend around it?
Nice. Oh, we've got another question on unit cost. Let's throw this in there. So when you mention unit cost and efficiency, is that for a specific AWS service or an overall spend in general? Matty, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, you can definitely build around both. In this example that I'm talking about, it's specifically for compute. So we're looking at EC2. And kind of how Alex mentioned, we have different instance sizes. So we are normalizing. So exactly like an 8 extra large instance is not going to be equivalent to a 2 extra large instance in terms of its computing power. So being able to take a look at its vCPUs, normalize on that, and then building out that unit metric. But definitely to your question, we can build other unit metrics and customers do it all the time. Maybe for their costs, they'll relate it to some of their internal metrics. So being able to tie it back to how many customers are we able to service. And this is extremely important for our SaaS-based customers as they're trying to figure out their margins, right? And how much their application is actually costing them and what are some improvement areas.
Yeah, definitely. I loved it. The other day we saw someone's, it was me and Connor were doing it, I think, and they just bought RDSs. And sorry, no, that's not the word. RIs for RDS. God,
Yeah.
it's one of those days. You knew what I meant, guys. You know what I meant.
Twister, right?
And their like unit cost is like dropped by like 0.1, which is a lot in the unit cost space. It sounds like nothing, but it was like a big amount. And but their spend had actually like gone up, and it was just like a good way to track it that their usage had gone up on RDS, but their actual unit cost had gone down. It was really satisfying for them to be like, oh, that's good, and then them seeing that making that purchase was a good decision. And also, on to mention this as well. So sometimes we generalize storage. I've seen that in our kind of thing where we put all the different storage elements together. I like to sometimes break it up because if a customer's doing a lot of work on, say, EBS and they want to track that specifically, then their unit cost of EBS is kind of something that I'll focus in on. But yeah, throw out that KPI dashboard to help you track any of those.
Yeah.
And Alex, anything else you want to add?
No, I think you guys hit all the points. I'm excited to kind of grow some of the stuff that we were talking about. And I learned a lot about GFS. I've been taking notes over here.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, you know, this is video. It's just because I do that all the time. I'm like, I should write this down and then remember that I literally have a recording on my laptop of this session.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, that's added time, right? Got to be efficient. Also, it helps me come up with questions as I'm talking, like if I write it down and talk. Obviously, I know we have like 4 more minutes left, but Matty, if you could like push one big optimization campaign across your GFS customers, around like one single subject matter, what would it be? Where do you think you could push the most impact right now, or is kind of the hot topic that you could really push?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So we've talked about commitment-based purchases, those spot instances. So leveraging those for sure. The other area that I could see folks leveraging the new offerings that AWS have, right? So we launched GP3 a while back, but I do still see a lot of folks using GP2 instances, right? So definitely take a look at where that could be a low-hanging fruit for you to actually start to cost optimize and move some of your volumes to that GP3. I think is a cool place that I see with a lot of our customers.
I was going to try and find my blog post, but it's just very easy now. Just search my name. I don't know, it might come up. There was one thing I want to touch on, and I think we might have to save it for a whole other episode. But Matty, we talked a little bit about guardrails being something that was quite important with financial management in GFS. Do you want to just quickly give a 2-minute summary of that? Because I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's the concept of least privilege, right? Only being accessed some things that you actually need to do your work, right? So I think where we see this with folks is having those fine tooth controls with different tagging as well as service control policies within their organization. We see folks even do this with the dashboard and visibility tools. So, the question came up of, do we use our own homegrown tools or do we use something such as a third-party tool? Both of those tools will give you those controls so that you can limit who gets to see what. Within QuickSight, you have the ability to even see role-level security. So this is kind of where those guardrails come into place, make sure that folks still have the visibility that they need without having to, expose everything from, the visibility space of how much it's costing.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some in the 100 level labs. There is some information about how to set up some SCPs and tag policies and stuff like that. So have a check out on there. But yeah, the row level security stuff is interesting. QuickSight's released groups recently. And so me and Aaron Adele, who's been on this show, I think twice now, are looking at seeing how we could do some row level security with groups and tags and kudos and all the labs, like mixing it into one big pot and then making it nice and secure, which is going to be super exciting. Okay, we've got another 1 minute left. Matty, is there anything else you want to share about GFS? Favorite story, quick anecdote you want to share with us?
I think we covered a lot of it, and I'd be happy to talk about it again. So feel free to have me on the channel again. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. I think us having a savings plan episode would be good. Alex, do you want to shout anything out before we finish?
Nope. I believe I'm on next week, right? So
Yes. We are doing pricing calculator next week. Alex is here. I'm off on holiday for
Lots
once.
of pressure.
Yeah, taking a day off, which will be exciting because I never do it.
Good,
As Alex
good.
tells me off.
Don't tune in. Don't tune in.
I'll do just to shout out one more thing before I forget. If I'm wearing you can't really see because it's quite dark in my office and this shirt is quite dark, but this is a FinOps shirt because we're talking about FinOps. I thought I'd wear a FinOps Foundation shirt, but FinOps X is coming up soon. I don't get paid to advertise this, but I'm going to be there, so come say hi if you're going to be in Houston. Is it Houston? Austin.
Awesome.
Sorry, the Texas place confuses me. So drop in and say hi. All right, thanks guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week for pricing calculator. Bye.
Sounds
All right.
good.